What's in a knob? They're all pretty much the same, right? Not right. The knob you choose can be the difference between life and death. Welcome to Gear Facts. Well, maybe life and death was a bit melodramatic, but the type of knobs that you put on your equipment can affect its ergonomics, its performance, and ultimately your musical outcomes. From time to time you'll get a piece of equipment where you think it just doesn't feel right, or maybe it doesn't quite look right, and it needs new knobs. They can make a massive difference to its appearance and performance, like this Venom synthesizer for example. This is an upgrade that I am moderately happy with, and it highlights a lot of things to consider when replacing the knobs. These are the originals that it came with. Now I really can see where they were coming from with these knobs. It's a very dynamic keyboard, so I think they figured that you needed quite slim knobs which could turn very quickly. Larger knobs like these won't turn quite as fast. It's very much a question of personal preference though, because I like the tactile feel of that, and I find these ones a little bit too dainty by comparison. They've taken into account the overall appearance of their keyboard. You see we've got the orange point there, matching up with the various other orange features and writing on the keyboard's front panel. And the grey matches the rubber buttons. This highlights a very old theory in design called the 60-30-10 concept. The idea being that 60% should be one colour, 30% should be another, and there should be a little feature colour which is your last 10%. In this case, white, grey and orange reflected perfectly on the knob. To be honest, I just didn't like the way they felt, and I found them to be a constant distraction when I was making music. And because making music is our top priority, they had to go. So that was my verdict for the M-Audio knobs. I'll take you through some of my favourite kinds now and tell you the reasons I like them as we go through. I really like the ones made by Stanton for several reasons. First of all, they're tapered, and this gives you a really nice grip when you want to spin things fast. It's surprising the difference it makes over something long and thin like this. Try it out for yourself in a shop, you'll really notice the difference. They also come in several nicely matched sizes too, which is great if the equipment that you're replacing the knobs on has various different zones. These ones are old favourites too, old Yamaha ones from the DJX and keyboards of that era. Again, tapered, very nice and tactile, a very marked directional point on it though, so if the orientation of the stalk on which this knob needs to sit doesn't match that orientation, that could be an irritation and a distraction. This is a generic one I picked up at my local electronics store, and I like it because it's just so very simple. Again, it's tapered as it goes down, and that simple design makes it adaptable to almost anything. Now we move on to a Boss one. You'll see ones like these on multi-effects pedals. I do like these because they have such a robust feel, and also the sort of fluted bottom here will often cover a little bit of exposure if the knob sits a little bit too high. This brings into question though the coloured top. Like I said with that M-Audio Venom earlier, we've got the 60-30-10 theory here, and if those colours don't quite match, it can look a little bit weird. This is a Roland one from one of their older synths, again tapered, very suited to its purpose of dynamic control. I've included these last two with mixed feelings because I've found that this design with any kind of pinch handle on it is extremely bad for dynamic control. Chicken head dials and your more hi-fi kind of dials here. However, from a decorative point of view they can be exactly right, and for controls that don't need to change much, these ones are particularly discreet and out of the way. You're probably aware that there are two different kind of stalks that knobs can go on. This is the time-honoured kind. It's a serrated edge, often found on guitar equipment, and on synthesizers and a lot of other electronic equipment you'll find more of a D-shaped kind of a hole for that stalk to go onto. But that's not the only hazard. You also have to consider the depth at which that hole begins. Some stalks sit very low and some are very high. Also, this one's got a bit of a skirt around the edge to cover over a very high stalk, whereas this one actually slightly protrudes out because it's countersunk into the machine. It's a very easy mistake to just check the type of stalk, go out and find one that matches your machine, and then come home to find that it sits too high or too low. Just going back to the new knobs I've put on the Venom synthesizer, you can see how there's a screw at the side that enables them to affix themselves to any kind of stalk. But this is actually the second set I tried after the first set I brought home sat ridiculously high off the front panel. And just to reiterate, if you have a D-shaped stalk like most electronic gear does, make sure that your notch is in the right orientation to that D. Next point, have a think about the age of your equipment and get a sense of what kind of vibe it's trying to put across. For example, I find these Yamaha ones quite sharp and sort of playful with their translucent finish, whereas a guitar knob like this one is going to be quite a salient decoration on your guitar, so think carefully about the vibe you want to be putting forward there. The Stanton knobs to me just scream practicality, just getting in and getting the job done, whereas a knob like this with its thin silver stripe and brushed sort of black chrome finish has quite a sophisticated sort of 80s feel to it. Generic knobs like this, I would recommend exercising caution because that colour is going to be awkward with most equipment and it's just a pretty undersized and dowdy kind of design. Consider the cost factor too. You've taken off your old knobs and you found some other ones and they're only $1.50 each. But remember, of course, a lot of equipment takes way more than 4 knobs. It might take up to 20. So that cost per knob can really start to multiply. One last consideration before you replace your knobs, friends, and that is the writing on the front panel. This all looks pretty good here, but when we get over to the other side, oh, that's kind of awkward. These are all things to consider in the rainbow of knobs. So we've talked about quite a lot there, friends. Here's a bit of a summary for you. The problem I've got with my Venom, it's clearly not a vintage keyboard, but these are vintage knobs. So if you're a bit fussy like me, then you'll find yourself with a whole new problem to be irritated by. Anyway, thanks for watching Gear Facts. I hope you found that useful. Please like, comment or subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.